Lady Gaga is being sued by the woman that safely returned her stolen dogs back in 2021 for non-payment of the $500,000 reward money. The catch is, the woman was convicted of being part of the dog napping. In this video, we'll go over the lawsuit itself and the legal basis behind it. The Law Study Guide breaks down legal concepts in an interesting way, whether you are a law student or just legally curious. As with any case brief, before we get into the issues alleged, in this case, we have to go over the background information. On February 24, 2021, Ryan Fisher, a professional dog walker, was just doing his job and walking 3 French bulldogs down Sierra Bonita Avenue in Hollywood, California. Around 9:40 p.m., a white car pulled up beside Ryan as a man jumped out and began attacking him in an effort to steal the dogs. The assailant punched, choked, and ultimately shot Ryan through the lung with a semi-automatic weapon. While this vicious attack was being carried out, 2 other perpetrators jumped out of the car and stole 2 of the 3 French bulldogs. As horrible as that incident was, it was made national news because these weren't just any dogs, they were Lady Gaga's dogs, Gustave and Koji. Ryan survived the shooting but suffered critical injuries and ended up losing part of his lung. As media outlets were reporting on the news of Gustave and Koji's dog napping on February 25, 2021, they were simultaneously reporting that Lady Gaga was offering a $500,000 reward for the safe return of her dogs, no questions asked. On February 26, Lady Gaga also posted to her Instagram regarding the theft and reward money for the safe return of her beloved dogs, writing, "My beloved dogs Koji and Gustave were taken in Hollywood 2 nights ago. My heart is sick and I am praying my family will be whole again with an act of kindness. I will pay $500,000 for their safe return. Email kojiandgustave@gmail.com to contact us. Or, if you bought or found them unknowingly, the reward money is the same." About 2 days later, Jennifer McBride walked into the Los Angeles Police Department to bring Koji and Gustave both unharmed. Jennifer initially claimed that she found the dogs tied to a pole on the street and she recognized them from the news. Initial reports named her as a good Samaritan. However, the police investigated further and they discovered something suspicious about Jennifer McBride. The police found that Jennifer McBride was dating Harold White, who was known to police as he had a previous criminal record, and he was known to have gang affiliations. Harold had a son, Jalen White, who also apparently had gang affiliations, and several friends who were in the gang as well. Ultimately, in late April of 2021, just 2 months after the initial dog napping, Jennifer McBride was arrested along with James Jackson, Jalen White, Lafayette Whalen, and Harold White. James Jackson was determined to have been the shooter that attacked and shot Ryan Fisher. Jalen and Lafayette were the other 2 accomplices that got out of the car to steal Koji and Gustave. They were initially charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit robbery, and second-degree robbery. The police determined they were not aware that Lady Gaga was the owner of the dogs. Rather, they had been casing the area for any French bulldog they could find and steal in order to sell them for profit. McBride was initially charged with being an accessory after the fact and receiving stolen property. Harold was charged with illegal gun possession by a felon. James Jackson pled no contest to his attempted murder charge and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. The other charges against him were dropped. Lafayette and Jalen both pled no contest to the robbery charges, with the other charges being dropped. Lafayette was sentenced to 6 years in prison, while Jalen was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Harold pled to being a felon in possession of a weapon, and at the time of making this video, he is still awaiting sentencing. But what about Jennifer? Jennifer took a plea to accepting stolen property and was sentenced to 2 years probation in December of 2022. She then filed the lawsuit against Lady Gaga in February of 2023. In the lawsuit, she is suing for breach of contract, fraud by false promise, and fraud by misrepresentation, and is seeking to be paid $500,000 in damages. She also claims that she has suffered pain, suffering, and loss of enjoyment, and is suing for an additional $1 million. Let's take a look at the heart of this lawsuit, which is the breach of contract. In the first cause of action, Jennifer, through her attorney, states, "On or about February 25, 2021, defendants made a unilateral offer to pay anyone $500,000, no questions asked. This consideration for the safe return of 2 French bulldogs, Koji and Gustave, which were stolen at gunpoint. The unilateral offer to pay the reward of $500,000, no questions asked, was communicated to the public through numerous news outlets, including but not limited to TMZ, Variety, CNN, and Today. On February 25, 2021, when said news outlets reported that Lady Gaga was offering a reward of $500,000 for the return of her bulldogs, Koji and Gustav. Plaintiff relied on defendant's unilateral oral offer communicated through numerous news outlets, including but not limited to TMZ, Variety, CNN, and Today, that Lady Gaga will pay $500,000, no questions asked, for the return of her bulldogs, Koji and Gustav. On February 26, 2021, defendant Lady Gaga reiterated her reward offer of $500,000 in writing on social media. On February 26, 2021, plaintiff accepted defendant's unilateral offer by contacting defendants and delivering Lady Gaga's bulldogs to defendants at the Los Angeles Police Department Olympic Community Police Station. Plaintiff has fully performed her obligation under the unilateral contract when she delivered Lady Gaga's bulldogs to defendants on February 26, 2021. Plaintiff has made a demand to defendants for payment of the reward money of $500,000. Defendant breached the unilateral contract by refusing to pay plaintiff the $500,000 reward as promised by the terms of the unilateral contract. As a result of defendant's breach, plaintiff has suffered compensatory damages in the amount of $500,000. When you heard breach of contract, you may have thought to yourself, there was never a contract, it was just a reward ad. What most people don't know is that an ad for a reward can actually turn into a contract. Let me explain. The general way a contract is formed is that there is an offer, the offer gets accepted, and there is consideration for the deal. Here, consideration means a bargain for exchange of something of legal value. There are two types of contracts as to their acceptance. First, there's a bilateral contract. In a bilateral contract, there's an exchange of mutual promises. This is the type of contract that most commonly comes to mind. This usually involves some negotiation between at least two parties where there is a clear offer, clear acceptance, and an agreed upon exchange of things of legal value, which again is consideration. The contract is formed after both parties agree to the terms. Performance can come at a later agreed upon date. So for example, if you wanted to sell your car and you find an interested buyer, the potential buyer could make an offer like, I'll buy your car for $5,000. If you accept that offer, the contract is made. The consideration here is the car is exchanged for $5,000. This is a bilateral contract because both sides have agreed to the terms before the contract is official. The other type of contract is a unilateral contract. In a unilateral contract, an offer is made by requesting someone to perform an act in exchange for a reward. The offer is accepted when a person performs or fulfills the requested action. Therefore, the contract is formed upon performance. In this case, Lady Gaga's pleas to the public for help in locating and safely returning her dogs in exchange for $500,000 is an offer. Her offer was accepted once Jennifer McBride delivered Gustav and Koji. Once they were handed over, the contract was officially formed. So finally, a unilateral contract is formed on performance. Now, courts may void or cancel a contract if the contract itself breaks the law. Like if someone ordered a hit on another person, which is against the law, and the people go to jail, the person that committed the hit can't sue the other person later on saying, I never got payment. The contract is completely voided because the whole thing was illegal to begin with. The other way that a court can void a contract is a matter of public policy, meaning that the court makes a decision that, okay, even though this is a real contract, we are going to rule against it. We're going to void it as if it never occurred because it would be morally unfair, or it would allow a bad actor to win the lawsuit and might encourage other bad actors to do the same thing. There's good argument to void this contract as a matter of public policy because Jennifer McBride was convicted of being involved in the dog napping. Remember, she pled guilty to receiving stolen property, which is a crime in California in which the required mental state is that the person receiving the property has to know the property was stolen. That being said, the police haven't revealed any other information regarding Jennifer's involvement. She was never charged with robbery. The only reason we know she was even connected to this case is because she brought the dogs into authorities. Had she not done so, Lady Gaga may have never gotten her dogs back. To McBride's argument, Lady Gaga did say she would give the reward no questions asked when it was reported on various news outlets. Courts will defer to an objective interpretation of the terms of a contract, rather than relying on what the offerer meant. Most people might interpret this phrase as a reward will be given as long as the dogs are returned unharmed, no matter how you do it, even if you were a part of it. If you look at Gaga's Instagram post, however, she does not say no questions asked. Instead, she says, I will pay $500,000 for their safe return. She then gives an email address to contact them and then says, or if you bought or found them unknowingly, the reward is the same. I think Gaga's team could argue in her Instagram posts that the usage of unknowingly meant that she would only give the reward if the person was not knowingly a part of this crime. But if no questions asked is not what she intended overall, it should have been corrected in the media. Ultimately, this may rest on the interpretation of no questions asked. If this goes to trial, will a court interpret no questions asked as you could be involved, I just want my dogs back? Or will they decide this should be voided as a matter of public policy? So I want to know your thoughts. Comment below what your interpretation of no questions asked is. And if Lady Gaga does fight this, who would win at trial, McBride or Gaga? I wouldn't be surprised if this settled out of court and Jennifer would be made to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but we'll see what happens. Subscribe for updates on this case and legal explanations of other news stories. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. See you next time!